The massive Vorthak exploration ship drifted through the darkness of space like a giant metal whale. Its hull stretched over 6 kilometers from nose to tail, covered in sensor arrays that constantly swept the surrounding void for signs of new worlds to conquer. Admiral Krentak stood on the bridge, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the star charts on the main display. "Another quiet sector," muttered Commander Velden from his station. 3 months of patrol and nothing but empty space and dead rocks. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in mild irritation. The Vorthak Empire had been expanding for centuries, absorbing weaker species and claiming their resources. But lately, finding new civilizations had become increasingly difficult. Most of the galaxy seemed either empty or already claimed by other major powers. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy readings," called out the sensor operator, a young Vorthak named Zixnow. "Bearing 27 Mark IV, approximately 8 million kilometers distant." Krentax moved to the sensor station, his heavy footsteps echoing on the metal deck. "What kind of readings?" "Unknown configuration, Admiral. The signature doesn't match any known propulsion system in our database. It's strange. The energy output seems very low, almost like the vessel is in some kind of sleep mode." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. Sleep mode usually meant one of two things: either the ship was damaged and running on emergency power, or it belonged to a primitive species that hadn't yet mastered efficient energy management. Either option presented opportunities. "How large is the contact?" "Difficult to determine precisely, sir. The energy signature is faint, but based on the dispersal pattern, I estimate roughly 3 kilometers in length." Commander Velden looked up from his tactical console. 3 kilometers isn't bad for a primitive species. Some of the early spacefaring races we've encountered barely managed ships a tenth that size. Krentax nodded slowly. 3 kilometers was respectable, though still much smaller than his own flagship. More importantly, a ship running on minimal power suggested a species that either lacked advanced technology or had suffered some kind of system failure. Both scenarios presented excellent opportunities for the Empire. "Set course for the contact," he ordered. "All ships maintain formation. I want a full tactical assessment the moment we're in range." The Vorthak fleet consisted of 5 vessels, the Admiral's massive dreadnought, 2 heavy cruisers, and a pair of fast attack ships. Together, they represented enough firepower to subjugate most planetary civilizations. As they approached the mysterious contact, their sensors began gathering more detailed information. "Sir, I'm getting clearer readings now," reported Zixnow. "The vessel appears to be made of some kind of advanced metallic composite. The hull design is unusual. Very angular, with what looks like armor plating. Weapons signatures?" "That's the strange part, Admiral. I can detect what might be weapon ports, but they're completely dark. No energy readings at all. It's like the entire ship is powered down except for basic life support." Commander Velden studied his own displays. "Could be a damaged warship from one of the unknown species in the Outer Rim. If they're stranded, they might be grateful for our assistance." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Vorthak smile. Grateful species were often the easiest to manipulate and eventually absorb into the Empire. "Maintain course. Begin standard reconnaissance protocols, but keep weapons ready. We don't want any surprises." As the fleet drew closer, more details became visible on their screens. The alien vessel was indeed roughly 3 kilometers long, but its design was unlike anything in their databases. Where Vorthak ships were curved and organic-looking, this craft was all sharp angles and flat surfaces. It looked more like a weapon than a transport, despite its apparently dormant state. "Admiral, should we attempt communication?" asked the communications officer. "Not yet. I want full tactical data first. If this is a military vessel, even a damaged one, I need to know what we're dealing with before we announce our presence." What Admiral Krentax didn't realize was that his fleet had been under observation for the past 6 hours. The human ship UES Thunder wasn't damaged or primitive. It was running silent, a standard patrol configuration that allowed it to monitor vast areas of space while remaining virtually undetectable to less advanced sensor systems. Captain James Mitchell sat in his command chair, watching the approaching alien formation on his tactical display. His ship's advanced AI had been analyzing the newcomers since they first appeared on sensors, building detailed profiles of their technology, capabilities, and likely intentions. "Captain, the lead vessel is beginning active sensor sweeps," reported Lieutenant Emma Stone. "Their scanning patterns are consistent with military reconnaissance. Any attempt at communication?" "Negative, sir. They're treating us as a target of opportunity rather than attempting first contact protocols. Mitchell nodded grimly. After 8 months of deep space patrol, he'd hoped their first contact with an alien species would be more diplomatic. The approaching fleet's behavior suggested otherwise. Analysis of their technology level. Roughly equivalent to our pre-fusion era, sir. Advanced enough for interstellar travel, but their sensor systems are at least 2 centuries behind ours. Their weapons appear to be particle beam-based, probably effective against similar technology but limited range and power. The captain considered his options. Standard human protocols called for peaceful contact when possible, but the alien fleet's obvious military formation and reconnaissance behavior suggested hostile intent. More concerning was the possibility that these aliens represented a larger civilization that viewed unknown species as targets for conquest. Maintain silent running for now, he decided. Let them get close enough for a full sensor sweep of their capabilities. If they show hostile intent, we'll give them a demonstration they won't forget. On the bridge of the Vorthak flagship, Admiral Krentax watched his prey grow larger on the main screen, completely unaware that he was about to encounter humanity's first line of defense. The alien scanning beams swept across the hull of the UES Thunder like invisible fingers trying to probe its secrets. Inside the human warship, dozens of sensors detected every attempt at intrusion, cataloging the primitive nature of the alien technology while remaining completely hidden from their outdated detection systems. Captain James Mitchell stood calmly in the command center, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the tactical display. 8 months of deep space patrol had been quiet, almost boring. Finally, something interesting was happening, though he wished first contact could have been under more peaceful circumstances. "Captain, they're intensifying their scans," reported Lieutenant Emma Stone from her position at the sensor station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she monitored the alien activities. 5 ships total. The largest one is leading the formation, probably their flagship. Their scanning patterns are definitely military in nature. Lieutenant Tom Brooks looked up from the weapons console. "Sir, should I begin charging the defensive systems?" "Not yet, Tom. Let's see what they do next." Mitchell moved closer to the main display, studying the approaching alien fleet. "Emma, what's their technology level?" "Pretty basic, Captain. Their sensors are using focused particle streams, probably effective against ships with similar technology, but they can't penetrate our stealth coating. Their largest ship has what looks like heavy weapons, but the energy signatures are weak compared to our systems." On the bridge of the Vorthak flagship, Admiral Krentax grew increasingly frustrated with his sensor readings. The alien vessel remained largely mysterious despite his best scanning equipment. What little information they could gather suggested advanced construction, but the ship appeared completely lifeless. "Zixnal, can you get any readings on their power systems?" he demanded. "Very minimal energy output, Admiral. Just enough to maintain basic life support, if that. The ship appears to be in deep hibernation mode." Commander Velvin studied his tactical display. "Perhaps their crew is in some kind of suspended animation. Many primitive species use such methods for long-distance travel." The Admiral nodded. Suspended animation was common among species that hadn't yet mastered efficient life support systems or faster-than-light communication. It would explain why the ship wasn't responding to their presence. "Move us to within 2 kilometers, he ordered. "I want detailed scans of their hull composition and internal structure. If this is a damaged vessel, we might be able to salvage useful technology." As the Vorthak fleet closed the distance, Captain Mitchell made his decision. The aliens had shown no attempt at peaceful communication and were clearly treating his ship as salvage or a target of opportunity. It was time to show them what they were really dealing with. "Emma, bring us out of silent running. Full defensive posture." "Aye, Captain. Initiating startup sequence now." Lieutenant Stone's hands flew across her controls, awakening systems that had been sleeping for months. The Thunder's massive fusion reactors, which had been running at barely 5% capacity, began climbing toward operational levels. Defensive shields that existed only in theory to most galactic civilizations powered up with a low hum that vibrated through the ship's hull. The effect on the Vorthak sensors was immediate and terrifying. "Admiral." Zixnal's voice cracked with panic. "The contact is powering up. Energy readings are climbing rapidly." Krentax spun toward the sensor station. "How rapidly?" "They've already exceeded our fleet's total power output, sir. And the readings are still climbing." On the main display, the once dark alien vessel began to glow with energy. Systems that had been invisible to their scans suddenly blazed to life, revealing a ship far more advanced than anything in the Vorthak database. Weapon ports that had appeared dead now showed massive energy buildups. The ship's hull itself seemed to shimmer as some kind of protective field activated around it. "By the void," whispered Commander Velden. "What kind of species builds something like this?" The Vorthak had encountered dozens of civilizations in their expansion across the galaxy. Some had been primitive, easily conquered with superior firepower. Others had been more advanced, requiring careful diplomatic manipulation before eventual absorption into the Empire. But they had never seen anything like the readings now flooding their senses. "Sir, their reactor output has exceeded anything in our experience," reported the chief engineer. "The energy signature suggests some kind of controlled fusion reaction, but the efficiency levels are impossible according to our physics." Captain Mitchell watched the alien fleet's panicked maneuvering on his tactical display. Their ships were beginning to spread out, clearly preparing for either fight or flight. The decision of which would be up to them. "Tom, power up the forward array. Just enough to get their attention." "Aye, Captain." Lieutenant Brooks activated one of the Thunder's secondary weapon systems, a focused particle beam that was considered a minor defensive weapon by human standards. To the Vorthak sensors, it registered as more powerful than their flagship's main gun. Admiral Krentak stared at his displays in growing horror. What they had mistaken for a crippled vessel was revealing itself to be a monster beyond their comprehension. The energy readings from just one of its weapon systems exceeded his dreadnought's primary armament. "How many weapon systems are showing active?" he asked quietly. Zixnal checked his instruments twice before answering. "At least 20, Admiral. And these appear to be just the secondary systems. I'm detecting much larger weapon ports that haven't powered up yet." The Admiral felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service: genuine fear. His fleet, which had seemed so powerful just minutes before, was suddenly revealed to be helplessly outmatched by a single alien vessel. "Sir, should we attempt to retreat?" asked Commander Velden. Before Krentax could answer, new readings appeared on their sensors. The alien ship was scanning them with instruments that cut through their shields and armor like they didn't exist. Every detail of their ship's construction, every weakness in their design, was being catalogued with casual efficiency. The Admiral realized with crystalline clarity that they were completely at the mercy of whatever species had built this technological nightmare. Admiral Krentax felt his blood turn cold as he stared at the impossible readings on his sensors. The alien vessel that had seemed like easy prey just moments before was now revealing itself to be something from a nightmare. Energy signatures that defied everything the Vorthak Empire knew about physics continued climbing on his displays. "All ships, emergency retreat," he barked into his communicator. "Maximum acceleration, now." The 5 Vorthak vessels turned away from the human ship and pushed their engines to the absolute limit. Their fastest interceptors, normally capable of outrunning anything they encountered, strained their power systems beyond safe operating parameters. The 2 heavy cruisers followed behind, their massive engines glowing white-hot as they desperately tried to escape. But as the fleet fled, a terrible realization began to dawn on Admiral Krentax. The alien vessel wasn't falling behind. Despite showing no signs of strain or increased engine output, it was keeping pace with his fastest ships effortlessly. "Navigator, report," he shouted. "Sir, we're at maximum velocity, but the contact is matching our speed exactly," came the trembling reply. "No, wait. They're gaining on us while their engine readings barely register any increase." Commander Velden gripped his console as he watched their pursuit on the tactical display. "Admiral, how is that possible? Our interceptors are pushing past Redline, and that thing is keeping up without even trying." On the bridge of the UES Thunder, Captain Mitchell monitored the chase with calm professionalism. His ship's advanced propulsion system was barely working at quarter capacity, easily matching the aliens' desperate flight speed. "Captain, they're attempting to charge their hyperspace drives," reported Lieutenant Emma Stone. "Looks like they're trying to jump out of the system." "Can't have that, Emma. They've seen too much. Engage the jump inhibitors." "Aye, sir." Activating spatial distortion field. The Thunder's jump inhibitor system came online, a technology that twisted spacetime itself around the fleeing alien ships. What the Vorthak experienced was unlike anything in their scientific understanding. Their hyperspace drives, which should have torn open a hole in reality to allow faster-than-light travel, simply refused to work. "Engineering." Admiral Krentax shouted into his comm system. "Why aren't the jump drives engaging?" "Sir, we don't know," came the panicked reply. "All systems show green, but something is preventing hyperspace formation. It's like space itself is refusing to open for us. The Admiral's science officer looked up from his station with wide, terrified eyes. Sir, I'm detecting massive spatial distortions around our ships. The alien vessel isn't just faster than us. They're controlling space-time itself. The full horror of their situation hit Krentax like a physical blow. His fleet, the pride of the Vorthak military, was trapped in normal space by technology that existed beyond their wildest theories. They couldn't outrun their pursuer, couldn't escape through hyperspace, and faced weapons that made their own armaments look like primitive clubs. Sir, incoming transmission from the alien vessel, reported the communications officer. Before the Admiral could respond, his main screen flickered to life. The image that appeared showed a creature unlike any in the Vorthak database. The being had pale skin, 2 arms, 2 legs, and strange hair covering the top of its head. But what struck Krentax most was the creature's eyes, calm, intelligent, and completely without fear. Unknown vessels, this is Captain James Mitchell of the United Earthship Thunder. The alien spoke in perfect Vorthak, somehow having learned their language in mere minutes. You have entered human-protected space and conducted an authorized military reconnaissance. State your intentions immediately. Admiral Krentax's throat felt dry as he struggled to find words. This human, as it called itself, spoke with the casual authority of someone who held all the cards in the situation. The Admiral had interrogated dozens of species before, always from a position of strength. Now he found himself on the receiving end, and it was a deeply unsettling experience. We are explorers of the Vorthak Empire, he managed to say. We meant no hostility. We were merely investigating energy signatures in this region. Captain Mitchell's expression didn't change. Your fleet formation and scanning patterns suggest military reconnaissance, not exploration. Your ships approached in attack formation while conducting aggressive sensor sweeps of my vessel. The human was right, and Krentax knew it. Standard exploration protocols would have involved peaceful communication attempts and cautious approaches. Instead, his fleet had behaved exactly like a military force evaluating a potential target. However, the human continued, I'm prepared to allow your departure with a message for your leadership. But first, I think a demonstration is in order. On the Thunder's bridge, Lieutenant Tom Brooks looked up from his weapons station. Captain, I have target locks on the asteroid cluster at bearing 187. Fire when ready, Tom. Let's show our guests what they're dealing with. 3 large asteroids, each roughly the size of a small moon, hung in space several thousand kilometers away. What happened next would haunt Admiral Krentax's dreams for the rest of his life. Streams of coherent energy erupted from the human warship, but these weren't simple particle beams or plasma bolts. The weapons seemed to fold space itself, creating tears in reality that struck the asteroids with impossible precision. The effect was instantaneous and terrifying. Each asteroid simply ceased to exist, converted directly from matter to pure energy in controlled bursts that lit up the void like miniature stars. The energy release from destroying just one asteroid exceeded the total output of the Vorthak flagship's main reactor running at full power for a month. Impossible, whispered the Admiral's science officer. They're manipulating matter at the subatomic level. Converting mass directly to energy. The precision required, the power control, it's beyond anything we ever imagined possible. Admiral Krentax stared at the empty space where 3 massive asteroids had existed moments before. The human ship had casually erased them from existence with weapons that operated on principles his civilization couldn't even comprehend. And they had done it without showing any strain on their power systems. The terrifying realization hit him. This demonstration had been a gentle warning. The humans could have done the same thing to his entire fleet. The empty space where 3 massive asteroids had existed moments before seemed to mock Admiral Krentax as he stared at his tactical display. His science officer was frantically trying to understand the readings from the human weapon demonstration, but the numbers made no sense according to Vorthak physics. Sir, the science officer whispered, his voice shaking. The energy release from that attack, it wasn't just destruction. They converted solid matter directly into pure energy with perfect control. No waste, no radiation scatter, no uncontrolled chain reactions. They're manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe like we manipulate simple tools. Captain Mitchell's calm voice filled the bridge of the Vorthak flagship as the communication channel remained open. Admiral Krentax, I trust that demonstration was sufficient to illustrate the futility of any aggressive action against human interests. The Admiral found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a croak. Yes, we understand. Good. Now let me explain the situation clearly so there are no misunderstandings. The human's tone remained perfectly conversational, as if discussing the weather rather than delivering an ultimatum that would reshape galactic politics. This sector of space, along with all human colonies and allied territories, is under the protection of the United Earth Defense Force. Any military incursions, acts of aggression, or threats against human interests will be met with immediate and overwhelming response. Commander Velden leaned close to the Admiral and whispered urgently, "Sir, should we inform him that the Vorthak Empire controls over 200 star systems? Surely he realizes that one ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against an entire civilization." Admiral Krentax glanced at his commander and realized how naive that thinking was. The human vessel had just demonstrated the ability to erase matter from existence with casual precision. How many ships would it take to threaten something like that? 100? 1,000? 10,000? The Admiral suspected the answer was that no number of Vorthak vessels would be sufficient. "Captain Mitchell," Krentax said carefully, "the Vorthak Empire is vast. We control many worlds, many fleets. Surely some accommodation can be reached between our peoples." The human's expression didn't change. "Admiral, I'm not interested in your empire's size or military strength. I'm delivering a simple message: leave human space alone, don't threaten human colonies, and your empire can continue to exist peacefully. The choice is entirely yours." On the Thunder's bridge, Lieutenant Emma Stone monitored the alien ship's reactions to their captain's words. "Sir, their bioreadings are spiking. High stress levels across all 5 vessels. I think the message is getting through." "Any signs they are preparing weapons or calling for reinforcements?" asked Captain Mitchell. "Negative, Captain. If anything, they are powering down non-essential systems. Classic defensive posture for a fleet that knows it's outgunned." Lieutenant Tom Brooks looked up from his weapons station. "Captain, I'm still tracking that asteroid belt. There are several larger chunks in the outer ring if you want to make the demonstration even more impressive." Mitchell considered the suggestion, then shook his head. "I think we've made our point, Tom. Sometimes less is more effective than overkill." Back on the Vorthak flagship, Admiral Krentax was receiving reports from his other ship commanders. Every captain was asking the same questions. How was this possible? What kind of species built ships like this? How many more human vessels were out there? "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "I'm detecting automated signals being transmitted between the human ship and several other points in this system. They're using quantum encryption methods we can't decode, but the signal strength suggests they're in contact with multiple other vessels." The Admiral's heart sank even further. The terrifying human warship wasn't alone. There were others, hidden throughout the system, probably watching this entire encounter and ready to respond if needed. "Captain Mitchell," he said into the communication channel, "your message has been received and understood. The Vorthak Empire has no desire for conflict with humanity." "Excellent. Then we understand each other perfectly." The humans seemed genuinely pleased by this response. "Admiral, you and your fleet are free to leave this system immediately. You may carry word back to your leadership about this encounter and our territorial boundaries. And if other Vorthak fleets encounter human vessels in the future, the same rules apply. Peaceful contact will be met with peaceful response. Military aggression will be met with immediate destruction. We're not looking for conquest or expansion at your expense, Admiral. We simply want to be left alone to develop in peace." Admiral Krentax felt a strange mix of relief and terror at those words. Relief that the humans apparently had no interest in conquering the Vorthak Empire. Terror at the casual way this Captain Mitchell spoke of destroying entire fleets. "I understand completely, Captain. The Vorthak Empire will update our star charts to reflect human territorial claims." "Very good. Safe travels, Admiral." The communication channel closed, and suddenly the spatial distortions holding the Vorthak fleet in normal space disappeared. Their hyperspace drives came back online, showing green status lights across all ships. "Sir, jump drives are operational again," reported the navigator with obvious relief. "Set course for home, maximum jump speed," ordered the Admiral. "And send a priority transmission to High Command. Code Black Emergency Protocols." As the Vorthak fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Admiral Krentax took one last look at the human vessel on his main screen. The UES Thunder hung in space like a predator watching prey depart, its weapons powered down but clearly ready to activate at a moment's notice. The jump to hyperspace engaged, and the alien fleet disappeared in flashes of twisted light. Captain Mitchell watched them go on his tactical display, then turned to his crew. Well, that was interesting. Emma, make sure we got complete sensor recordings of their ships and technology. Intelligence will want a full report. Already compiled and ready for transmission, Captain. Good work, everyone. Let's hope they got the message and we won't have to repeat this lesson. The emergency session of the Vorthak High Command had been running for 3 straight days. In the massive war room deep beneath the imperial capital, dozens of military leaders, scientists, and government officials sat around a circular table that had witnessed the planning of countless conquests. Today, however, they were discussing something entirely different: survival. Admiral Krentak stood at the center of the room, his report displayed on holographic screens that surrounded the assembled leadership. The sensor data from his encounter with the human warship painted a picture that challenged everything the Vorthak Empire thought it knew about galactic power structures. "One ship," said General Mordak slowly, his voice filled with disbelief. "A single vessel neutralized our most advanced exploration fleet without firing a shot in anger. The energy readings alone are beyond our current understanding of physics," added Chief Scientist Ralhan. "Their reactor systems appear to generate power levels equivalent to a small star. Their weapons manipulate matter at the quantum level. And their propulsion technology allows them to control spacetime itself." High Commander Zexval, the supreme military leader of the Vorthak Empire, studied the tactical analysis with growing concern. His empire had conquered dozens of species over the centuries, always maintaining technological superiority through superior firepower and advanced tactics. Now they faced something completely outside their experience. "Admiral Krentax," he said formally, "in your professional opinion, how many ships would we need to engage this human vessel on equal terms?" The Admiral was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Sir, based on the demonstration we witnessed, I don't believe any number of our current ships could pose a threat to that vessel. They erased 3 asteroids from existence using what appeared to be secondary weapons systems. Their primary armaments never even powered up." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vorthak Empire controlled over 200 star systems and commanded fleets numbering in the thousands of ships. Yet all of that military might prove useless against a single human vessel. "What do we know about their overall military strength?" asked Minister Veltork from the Intelligence Division. "Very little," admitted Krentax. "The human captain mentioned territorial boundaries and defense forces, suggesting they have multiple ships and established colonies. During our encounter, I detected automated communications between their vessel and other points in the system, implying additional ships were present but remained hidden." Chief Scientist Ralhan pulled up detailed analysis of the human weapon demonstration. The precision of their matter-to-energy conversion suggests incredibly advanced artificial intelligence systems. The power control required to prevent runaway chain reactions, it's beyond our most optimistic theoretical projections. High Commander Zexval made his decision. "Issue immediate orders to all fleet commanders. Human space is to be avoided completely. Any encounters with human vessels are to be treated as diplomatic contact only. No aggressive actions, no military reconnaissance, no territorial challenges." "Sir," interrupted General Mordak, "shouldn't we at least attempt to study their technology? Perhaps capture a damaged vessel or—" "Absolutely not," Zexval cut him off firmly. "Did you not understand the Admiral's report? They demonstrated the ability to convert matter into pure energy with surgical precision. What do you think they would do to any force attempting to capture their technology?" Within hours of the High Command's decision, encrypted messages began flowing through the galactic communication networks. The Vorthak Empire, known throughout their region of space for aggressive expansion and military conquest, suddenly began issuing warnings to allied civilizations about a new species that was not to be provoked under any circumstances. The hegemony of Zenth received the intelligence first, since they shared a border with Vorthak space. Prime Minister Kolran read the report with growing amazement, then immediately called an emergency session of his own government. "The Vorthak are afraid," he told his council. "In 3 centuries of dealing with them, we have never seen them retreat from any species. Yet they are now actively avoiding an entire sector of space because of one encounter with a single human ship." The Zenth military advisors studied the technical data that the Vorthak had reluctantly shared. The weapon demonstration readings were so far beyond current galactic technology that some initially assumed the data was fabricated. "Sir, if these readings are accurate, the humans possess technology that makes our most advanced warships obsolete," reported Fleet Commander Texan. "I recommend immediate implementation of non-aggression protocols." Similar conversations were taking place across the galaxy as word of the human encounter spread through various diplomatic and intelligence channels. The Crystalline Collective, a normally aggressive alliance of silicon-based life forms, updated their expansion plans to completely avoid the region of space where humans had been encountered. The Blade Clans, a warrior culture that had never retreated from any opponent in their recorded history, quietly withdrew their forward scouts from areas near human territory. Their war chief, Karthok the Undefeated, made an unprecedented announcement that certain sectors were now considered off-limits for honor challenges. Even the ancient ethereal conclave, beings of pure energy who rarely concerned themselves with physical species, took note of the human capabilities and marked their territory as a zone of interest requiring careful observation. On the bridge of the UES Thunder, Captain James Mitchell was completing his routine patrol report. The encounter with the alien fleet had been logged as a standard first contact situation resolved through diplomatic demonstration of defensive capabilities. He had no idea that his brief encounter had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. "Captain, we're receiving new orders from Fleet Command," reported Lieutenant Emma Stone. "We're being reassigned to deep patrol in the Outer Rim sectors. Any specific mission parameters?" "Standard reconnaissance and protection of colonial shipping lanes, sir. Apparently, intelligence suggests increased alien activity in the area." Captain Mitchell nodded and settled back in his command chair. Another routine patrol assignment in the vast emptiness of space. He had no way of knowing that across the galaxy, dozens of civilizations were frantically updating their military doctrines, diplomatic protocols, and territorial maps to account for humanity's sudden emergence as the apex predator of known space. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.